Hello and welcome to another episode of MDTV. Today we're talking about the coronavirus. And my first recommendation to you is if you want live updates on the coronavirus, then I recommend checking out the worldometer website. This is what I use to get my updates and news with the latest cases and fatalities and so on. And the website is quite nice. It breaks the cases and deaths down per country, as you can see here, as well as gives us a nice fixed um, global update here. So, as you can see, as of March 12th, 2020, there are over 130,000 cases worldwide and almost 5,000 deaths. Um, and quickly, just to touch on these graphs here that we can see, you can see that since the end of January until mid-March, that the number of cases is continuing to rise. Okay, and likewise the number of deaths continues to rise. Okay, so some food for thought when you're thinking about this moving forward is, what's going to get these lines to change directions. Okay, and I think that one of the unfortunate um, understandings about this is that it's not going to be a drastic decline. Okay, there's going to be um, a lot more total cases and a lot more deaths. So again, the question is, what's going to turn this around? And we don't have the answer yet, but you may ask, what accounts for this small dip that we can see in the middle of February? And I think that the answer is twofold. Number one, mid February is right around the time that China started to contain the virus with better travel restrictions and quarantines, and their numbers began to drop off dramatically. But they definitely have had radical changes within the country that have affected everyone, as we know. And same thing with the deaths, matching the deaths there. But the second reason I think also is because the month of February really changed the global attitude towards this, that this is not going to be something that is going to go away soon. And as awareness has grown and more testing has become available, we're seeing more and more cases pop up globally. Okay. All right, so let's move down to our lovely breakdown per country. And as we can see, the numbers continue to rise with every other country, for the most part, except for China, as well as South Korea is actually doing a good job kind of mitigating their spread as well. And we'll look at these countries individually. All right, so let's start with Italy. So Italy has had a steady increase in the number of cases in the last couple of weeks. So total is over 15,000 with over 1,000 deaths. So as you can see, the number of cases in Italy has grown significantly. And again, what is going to change this curve? I guess the direction of it, right? So far, we don't have the answer. And if you look at this in a histogrammatical format here, then you can see again that these cases are just continuing to rise. And again, same thing with the number of deaths. So let's look at another country, South Korea, who's actually seen a decline in the number of cases. So they have close to 8,000 with, look at this, shocking, 66 deaths. Okay. That is significantly lower than what we just saw with Italy. Italy has close to 15,000 cases with 1,000 deaths. So if you do simple math, South Korea has about half of the cases in Italy, right? And one would anticipate that if the Italian death rate is the true death rate, then you would see 500 deaths in South Korea, but that is not in fact what we're seeing. And so the question is, what is South Korea doing different that other countries may not be? And what explains this drop or change of direction, if you will, of the total number of cases in South Korea? They really have been able to effectively contain this and sort of shift directions of this curve. And again, you can see with this analysis, number of cases are going down, and likewise the deaths as well should be going down. And you may see a little bit of lag time between new cases and deaths. That is, of course, because as soon as you're diagnosed, you're not dead. So there's a lag time between when you get sick and when you potentially would die. But again, this is a staggering difference. The Italian death rate, let's do a quick calculation here. I just have my calculator. So 15,000 divided by 1,000, or excuse me, 1,000 divided by 15,000 is 6%, 6.5% death rate. That is staggering compared to North Korea. So let's divide 66 into, we'll do the exact number here. So 7,869. The death rate in South Korea is less than 1%. It's 0.8%. Okay. So again, what is South Korea doing different? So South Korea has taken the test all approach. So they have rapidly increased the amount of people that they have tested in the country. I believe the count is somewhere above 200,000 people in the country, and it doesn't matter if you have symptoms or what have you, like in other countries that would subsequently have a follow-up test. South Korea has taken an active approach to test everybody, even in remote contact with anyone related to the virus, and they have caught a lot of cases because of this, as well as effectively quarantine those cases. And then just by sheer statistics, again, because they're catching so many more people that wouldn't necessarily know that they've been infected or are infected, that they're having a ton of cases with few deaths. And we can go into differences in treatments and guidelines and things like that, but I think that the important picture that we learn here when we're looking at Italy compared to South Korea and the difference between less than 1% death compared to 6.5% death rate, that is staggering, and I think that we need to think carefully when applying numbers in our own country accordingly, okay? All right, so one other thing to look at here, let's take a look at the USA. USA, 1,500 cases and 40 deaths. We can do a quick death rate calculation here. So 40 into, and we see the death rate in the US is about 2.5%. Okay, so one would logically conclude that the most amount of testing is being done by South Korea. The least amount of testing is being done by Italy in terms of percent of the population being tested, whereas the US is somewhere in between. Now, I think that the South Korean data is encouraging in the sense that the death rate, I believe, is much lower than what we think it is, and that we can look at other viruses and pandemics that have had similar death rates and sort of draw conclusions about what we may expect in the future. So join me for my next episode of MDTV. I'm going to be covering the coronavirus relative to other viruses and pandemics. Thanks.